I heard something this week that stuck with me. It was simple, but it challenged the way I've been thinking. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear it, but lately, I haven't been moving with belief, and that's what I want to talk about today.
Welcome to the Scarred Sons podcast, where we dive into scars of life and the outcomes they shape. This podcast is a space for honest conversations about my journey, the lessons learned, the struggles endured, and the growth that followed, geared towards helping other sons with scars. We'll explore topics like personal development, mental and spiritual health, and the path to becoming the best version of yourself. Let's navigate these challenges together, one story at a time. Let's dive in.
The views expressed on this podcast are based on my personal experiences and insights. I am not a licensed therapist, counselor, or medical professional, and the content shared is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or guidance. Please consult a qualified professional for advice tailored to your specific needs. I am not responsible for any decisions or outcomes resulting from the use of this content.
What's up to all my Scarred Sons out there? I'm your host, Ty. Before we dive in, I want you to know this is a safe space. I'm not here as someone who has it all figured out, just a man willing to speak his truth. And if you carry scars, welcome home. I was talking to one of my customers, just a regular conversation, and he said to me, "This is going to be a good week." And I responded like most of us would, "Yeah, I need that." But he stopped me and said it again. "No, this is going to be a good week." And I'm sitting thinking, what does he mean by that? And then he said, "You know the secret to having a good week? Believing you're going to have a good week." And that stuck with me because when you've been going through things, belief doesn't come easy. Being a scarred son, you've had moments where things didn't work out, people didn't show up, life didn't go how you planned. So now you move a little different. You protect yourself. You expect resistance. And sometimes you stop expecting anything good at all, at least from certain individuals. Belief isn't just pretending everything is okay. It's not ignoring reality. It's choosing to not let your current situation define your final outcome. It's saying, yeah, it looks like this right now, but I don't believe it ends here. There's something I had to understand about belief. This changed everything for me. A lot of us are waiting for evidence before we believe. We're saying, "I'll believe when things get better," or "I'll believe when I see progress," or even, "I'll believe when something changes." But it doesn't quite work that way. Belief doesn't come after the result. Belief comes before it. And that's the part that's hard. Because when you're in the middle of it, nothing around you is confirming that things are going to get better. So your mind says, why believe? But what I'm realizing is if you only believe when things look good, you'll never believe when it matters most. Because the moment belief is required is usually when nothing makes sense. And that's where most of us get stuck. We're looking at our current situation and using that as proof that nothing is changing. But your current situation is not proof of your final outcome. It's just a moment in the process. And belief is choosing not to let this moment define everything. And I want to talk to the scarred son who's right there on the edge, because I know how real that feeling is. When everything stacks up, responsibilities, pressure, emotions, you start looking for a way out, not because you're weak, but because you're just tired. And sometimes the way out looks like a shortcut, something quick, something final, something that promises relief. But some of those shortcuts come with consequences you can't undo. And in those moments, your judgment is clouded. You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're just trying to escape today. And if that's where you are right now, this moment is not the end of your story. Let me say something that might not feel good to hear, but I had to hear it myself. At some point, we have to stop blaming everything around us and take a real look at what's going on the inside of us. There have been times in my life where the situation wasn't the biggest problem. It was how I was thinking about it. The doubt, the fear, The expectations that things wouldn't work out. And when you carry that long enough, you start to live like it's true. You move different. You show up different. You make decisions based on that belief. And then when things don't work out, it confirms what you already believed. So now you're stuck in a cycle. And nobody talks about that part. Because it's easier to say, life is hard, than to say, my mindset might be keeping me here. And that's not to blame you. That's to wake you up. Because if your thinking helped create the cycle, your thinking can break it too. And that's where belief comes in. There's been plenty situations and times in my life where I wanted to blame my dad for not being there, my mom for reacting the way that she does in situations, my aunts, my uncles. A lot of times, now what I think about is a different perspective. Now I want to learn and I want to analyze these situations like, what may have they been going through to make this decision? I don't think these decisions were all based upon me. Just like when I make decisions, they're not all based upon myself either. There are different factors that play a part. I'm really more focused now on learning, and when I encounter these situations, to break it down a little bit, not get so ready to defend or protect or even try to get people to understand me. I'm more willing to know, how did somebody make this decision? What might they have gone through their minds? What are they facing? And I can put myself in their shoes because I have situations that come up and I make decisions that I'm sure other people will look at me like, what in the world was he thinking? And it's a part of believing that you can have a connection with someone and the situation can get better. However, without believing first, all of those things become much more difficult to handle, much more difficult to comprehend, much more difficult to even think that there's a greener side, or for us to even think it's possible to overcome the current situation. Let's take a quick pause. This feels like a good time to jump into the mirror moment. Let's dive in. The mirror moment is a space where we slow down and take an honest look at the man in the mirror. No distractions, no pressure, just reflection. Look at the man in the mirror. What do you actually believe about your life right now? Not what you say out loud, but what you truly believe. Do you believe things can get better? Or have you already decided this is as good as it gets? And if you've lost belief, when did that happen? What moment made you stop believing? And it is possible. That moment doesn't get to define the rest of your life. Thank you for listening to this week's Mirror Moment. Let's get back to the episode. I found myself out there listening to my customer give me that secret to success, I'll call it. I did a quick reflection and I'm looking back and I'm like, man, have I really lost belief in my situation? Like, have I really just not taken everything in? And now I'm believing that my path is just in ruins. And I had to remind myself of a couple of things. But the scripture that I'm about to read to you helped me kind of put things into perspective a little bit better. It's Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. And I am certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it is finally finished. So with that verse, I'm just thinking on my situation, and it was like a light bulb went off. It's like, God keeps waking me up every morning. He keeps supplying my lungs with oxygen. He keeps giving me the ability to put one foot in front of the other. So my story is definitely not finished, and my purpose has yet to be fulfilled. And that gave me a little boost, a little push to step back a little bit and realize I still have more work to do, and this is really not the end. In simple terms, the work that started in you isn't finished yet. So if your life feels incomplete, messy, uncertain, that doesn't mean it's over. It means it's still in progress. And belief is trusting that process. There's another layer to this belief that I've been learning in real time. Spending time in my territory, my sales territory, which is my 9 to 5, talking to customers, I realized something. For a long time, I thought my role was to just be liked by the customer, be available, be helpful, be easy to work with. But I wasn't showing up in my full value. And as I've grown, I've realized I'm not just dealing with customers. I'm dealing with people. And the more I focus on solving problems instead of just being agreeable, the more trust I gain. And through that process, I started gaining confidence. Not because I became perfect, but because I see now I already bring something to these tables. I don't have to prove myself every time. I can just step into who I already am. And belief started to feel different. Not can I do this, but I know what I bring. And a lot of us, we've been trying to prove ourselves so long, we forgot we already have value. And belief grows when you recognize it. I used to have a clothing brand, and my last release was called Just Believe. And now I'm back in the place where I needed that message again. And I'm sure if you're listening to this and if anything this is relatable, you may also feel the same way. In our stories and this life that we're living, believing in ourselves can oftentimes feel difficult. It can feel like the ultimate challenge. There's so many ways to look around you, to see what's happening, to see what's going on. It's so easily to quickly say, man, I thought I was doing something. Or I thought I had this, or I thought I had that. There's something better. I need to go get this. There's something this. I need to go get that. But looking internally inside yourself, just as I spoke about with showing up with my customers, I had to take notice, and I had to put this in perspective too, is we are all created equal, but we're uniquely different. There's something different about each of our purposes while we're here on this earth. And that is the uniqueness that no one can take away from you, that no one can overlook, or that no one can just shove in the corner. How do you get back to belief? I got a couple things that I do and I want to share them with you. Check your internal language. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself daily. Because if your inner voice is full of doubt, it's hard to build belief on top of that. Limit what feeds your doubt. Not everything deserves your attention. Negative environments and conversations can quietly shape how you see your life. Get around people who believe. Sometimes belief grows through proximity. Hearing someone think differently can shift your perspective. And start small. You don't have to believe everything changes overnight. Just believe something can shift. That's where it starts. Stay in the process. Don't judge your life too early. You're in the middle of something, not at the end of it. If you've been moving through life without belief, I understand. Because life will give you reasons to not believe. But don't let your current situation convince you that nothing will change. Because nothing changes until you believe it can. And belief might be the first step forward you've been missing. Belief in so many ways, I feel like when we fall out of sync of it, sometimes is a symbol of when we're falling out of sync of life, and then we start getting on the hamster wheel. We start routine. We start just going. It's so routine that we're not even really physically there, or mentally there, I should say. It's like you just wake up, you brush your teeth, put on your clothes, you go to work, do what you do at work, go eat dinner, come back home, do what you do at home, go to bed, wake up, do it again, go to bed, wake up, go to work, do it again. It's a circle. It's easy to get trapped in it. And I feel like that's what happened with me. This routine I'm in, my routine changed drastically at some point in time, or has been changing. Now, this is a real moment thought. So my belief has been changing for quite some time, because even as a child, I had different beliefs. And even as a young adult, I had different beliefs. But my beliefs were shifted by close relationships in my life. Not necessarily just growing pains of being a teenager or being this or being that. Not necessarily having the best relationships that I felt I should have, or when I look around me, other people have. I think a lot of that shifted my mind frame, and it just made me dive into my work more. Made me just dive into doing the best I can at the opportunities that were given to me. I didn't really step outside of myself to tell myself where I should be going, or where I wanted to go, or what I even wanted to do. I allowed my life to kind of just take its own path, and I'm the vessel just following myself around mindlessly. Until now, I feel like I've been able to tap into a different version of myself and pull out some things that, like here, just believing when my customer told me it was going to be a good day today, or it was going to be a good week. I wasn't really seeing what he was saying because I was too stuck in just doing my job, getting to my next job, getting back home and going to bed and waking up and doing it again. And so I'm really appreciative of him for opening back my mind up to be able to see all of the things that we do in a day's time. A lot of it may be consumed with work, but we should try to figure out a way to be involved in these activities more from a mental standpoint, to take back some of that control of your schedule. And that's the one thing I haven't done the best at. Taking charge of my schedule, putting things on there that I want on there, taking things off that I don't want on there, or adjusting things if I run out of time. Belief is more than just telling myself, I believe I can do this, or I believe I can do that. It's more than just a destination. And a lot of times it's how I get there. Keeping myself engaged enough to be able to control where I'm going and not just let life take over. So if you're there, I hope this message, or I hope this podcast or episode has been able to open your mind to believing in yourself in a different way. Not just that you're capable. I know you're capable, and you do too. But if you don't, you just understand where your starting point is. And just don't be ashamed of where you are. And you don't really need to share it. Use your mirror when you wake up in the morning and speak to yourself. And you really know where you are. And you really know what you need. Just stay engaged and stay in control the best way that you can. Keep putting the one foot in front of the other. And if nothing changes, check what you've been believing. We'll continue this conversation next Sunday at 8 a.m. Lord willing. Peace and love.
Thank you for joining me on the Scarred Sons podcast. Remember, every scar tells a story, and every story has the power to inspire growth. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to reach out and share your journey. Don't forget to stay up to date with the podcast by liking, commenting, and subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at scarred.sons for more content and updates. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep healing, and remember, scars don't define you, they shape you. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.